Hey friends, hope you're all doing well. So in this video I'll be exploring, is a PhD worth it? Or is there any point in doing a PhD? Because it does take majority of your time, and most PhDs are between 3 to 9 years on average, so which is pretty crazy. And it does hold a pause in your industrial experience or industrial advancement in a sense. So the question is it worth it? So let me just start with my background and what I'm doing now currently, and I feel like some of you would know. So I did a BSc in computer science and mathematics after I finished my A-levels at age 18. So in the UK we have an advanced study called, or higher study in secondary school or high school if in America, called A-levels, and you have to pass that. So with the A-levels you apply to your preferred university with the results you get from that. Instead of A-levels I did IB, or International Baccalaureate, the diploma version, so where I have to do 3 highers and 3 standard subjects, as well as 3 extracurricular, so it's like CAS, extended essay and theory of knowledge. So it was pretty good, but they did try and cramp everything in 1.5 years, because in the UK our term time is a bit different from everywhere else in the country. So I know we had some international student for a 6-month placement from Canada, and their IB program is 3 years. So it's basically double ours, because they just made it so that the student would get better grade overall than us, whereas we just rushed everything and cramped everything into a smaller period, which isn't ideal. But I think IB does help overall, since it does increase the minimum knowledge of every aspect in a sense, because in IB you have to do a science, you have to do a maths, literature, language, as well as humanity. So it does kind of raise the bar of your base knowledge to I think it's a first year of uni, if you, in a sense, that's the equivalent in the UK, because I know in the UK for first year uni in the UK for a bachelor's degree. So you just gets to that standard, and you have a broad aspect of more knowledge in a sense. So after that I applied to my bachelor's in computer science and mathematics, did that for 3 years, graduated in 2021. Yeah, so during that period it was the COVID period, like everyone knows. So my undergrad was kind of different. It was a bit weird, because all the stories that you would have heard from a normal undergrad they just didn't apply to us, because it was just during lockdown. So all of my classes were online. Some of the materials weren't even available, and yeah, everyone just did their own thing in a sense. And we had exams online for first and half of second year. Then it was in person, but the exams were in person, but all the teachings were in online, which isn't ideal, and you still pay the full fee, which made no sense. And that's why online there was a thing saying, oh, it was a scam, because I know my uni was doing a thing where online teaching was half the tuition fee rather than attending in person, because you're not using the uni resources. But during COVID we weren't allowed to use uni resources. But yeah, this is a bit of a run, I'm sorry, but yeah, I just have to let you guys know. But then after I did my bachelor's, I applied to a master's in AI, because I was looking at it and I feel the software development or software engineering roles weren't as stagnant. And the good thing is that my dad is also a software engineer, or a computer scientist, and he works as a senior developer or a tech lead as well. So he knows that there were redundancies and layoffs for those type of roles, because especially after COVID, there was a lot of, there weren't enough fund to cover them. And especially with the software development and the advancement of AI, companies weren't looking at hiring people with just basic computer science degree, so they would prefer someone with an AI application or AI knowledge in a sense. So that's why for my master's, so rather than working for a year or 2 years, I was like, let me just let me just leave the education with as soon as possible and never come back. So that was my main aim. So reach what I need to do, what I need, or what certification I need for my role or the job I want without coming back to the education system, because I can't be asked. like I think for me, especially since I haven't left the education system yet, I've just been doing it since birth in a sense. So I did work part-time and like internship during like the summer period, but I still haven't left the academic path way until now, or like even now, I think. So that's why the aim was to just finish all the thing I need, finish the requirements, everything, then just get a job and just settle, enjoy life in a sense. So that's why I chose to do masters in AI. Then after that was complete, I didn't think I was like, okay, after I completed that, I was like, yeah, I don't need any more. Then I was looking for jobs before, like 6 months before my graduation. So I was looking at graduate roles at like companies. And for AI or machine learning engineer graduate roles, they were asking like 10 years of work experience or a PhD. I was like, it's a graduate role. I'm just graduating from uni. How does this make sense? Like, where am I meant to get 10 years of work experience? And I feel like during that period, especially like we were recovering from COVID, like the economy was recovering and companies, like I feel like they just put false advertisement for jobs, because I feel like the HR had to do something, right? They can't just be redundant in the company. So I feel like they just put that post up, which made no sense, because essentially no one could apply, since that was just we just dipped our feet into AI in a sense, like the whole country, and they were saying 10 years of AI experience. That's basically like all the researchers or like scientists who research on AI side, because other than that, there were no like engineers who just applied any of the AI tools that were widely available. Maybe only like a small portion, which isn't great, because I feel like all the companies, or most of the companies I was looking at were like that. But for like graduate software engineering roles, it was just fine. So you could just have a degree and get a job kind of thing, because that's why it's meant to be. As a graduate role, you just graduated and you just work, like you learn, you do the training for 2 years, I think, then you become a full-time position. Now, that said, I applied to a software engineering role because when I applied to the machine learning engineering roles, I just got rejected instantly, because they were like, we don't find you fit. In a sense, they just put a nicer version of that. So I applied for a software engineering role, so I got a job allied with that, and also applied for a PhD at University of Edinburgh for robotics and autonomous system, because with that, you could do your own proposal. So I was interested with game theory and like AI agents interacting with game theory, rational choices kind of thing. So I was like, okay, let me do that proposal. Then they were fascinated about it as well. Then I went through the interview process and got accepted. Let me know if you guys want to, if you want me to share about the whole interview process and the selection process of applying for a PhD and how to increase your chance of getting the PhD in the end. Or like what you want to see in a project proposal, what should you include and stuff. So let me know if you want me to make another video based on that, and make sure you like and subscribe. So now at this time of recording, I'm a second year PhD student at University of Edinburgh and Harriet Watson's is a partnership. So yeah, so that's just basically my background for now. So what is a PhD? PhD means Doctor of Philosophy. It's the idea of like exploring a specific topic and becoming an expert in that topic or that area of interest. So just reaching the pinnacle of that area in a sense. So PhD is the highest academic degree rewarded to you by universities or institution or educational institute. Mainly like well-known institute, because it does send through a panel. Your thesis will send through a worldwide panel, and once they approve, then you'll get your PhD in a sense. So with that, that's the pinnacle of education in a sense. So that's also one of the main reasons I did a PhD, or I'm doing a PhD now, especially with AI, like as AI is slowly taking over jobs and stuff. If I did a PhD, I have the maximum requirement for any roles. So like I would satisfy in the educational sense any role I applied in the CS industry or the computer science industry. And the PhD is mainly about contributing to your own area of interest or the topic that you chose. So without any contribution, you won't get the reward that it lies, which is the doctor in front of your name, ideally, right? So now the question that you need to ask yourself is it worth it for you, especially? Like for me, it is, because I want to work in like AI applications and stuff, since that's what I'm passionate about. And the most requirements are, some of them does say master's or PhD, but it's just better if I have PhD, since there isn't that many opportunities out there that does machine learning research or like machine learning engineers. So like it's better, since you're still competing against others who might have a PhD if you had a master's degree. So it's just better if I reach a PhD, if I have a PhD as well as some published papers for a world-renowned organization or publishers. Then it does give me a better chance against the competition in a sense. So here are some of the reasons why you might want to do a PhD. Like you might be passionate about some research topic or passionate about just gaining knowledge in a sense. So that's why, if you enjoy deep learning, critical thinking, independent research, the PhD does provide you all of that opportunities. Or if you're looking for a career in academic, so becoming a professor at university. So becoming a professor at university does require you to have a PhD, since they want you to be an expert at that certain topic. And a PhD does justify you being an expert. Or if you want to apply for an industrial role, for like research scientist role kind of thing, so you want to work in R&D, for example, and those type of roles does also require a PhD, since it does justify the independent research and you finding something new. Also, it does offer the opportunity to earn more in some fields, so especially with biotech, AI, and finance. A PhD in those type of field does contribute to your earning, or it does show a positive correlation with your earning. Also, with the PhD, it does presents credibility of anything you say. So even if you have a proposal, or if you have a conflict with your peer or something, since you have a PhD, the others are willing to trust you more over a person without. So it shows you credibility with that degree. Also, another thing is personal fulfillment, since in the world there aren't that many people who has a PhD, and if you have a PhD, you reach the pinnacle of society in terms of knowledge in that specific area or that field. And finally, I would say it's pretty cool to have a doctor in front of your name. So I think that's pretty cool, like especially when you're young, and like especially if you're not like a medical doctor, you could still be a doctor in other fields. So especially like in my case, I will be a doctor in but I got that through doing a PhD in AI. But the thing is, it's not always positive. There are like reasons why it's not worth it in a sense. I think first and most important is the mental and emotional stress, since when you're doing a PhD, you're not just focused on that. There are so many different opportunities just hitting you from all directions, and you have to balance everything or juggle everything within your life, or like within 40 hours of like working life kind of thing. Since PhD, I think you should treat it as like a full-time job, so 40 hours a week in a sense. And you are living a hectic lifestyle during the span of that PhD life. And going into spam, the second is the time and the opportunity cost, because an average PhD does take 3 to 9 years or something like that. And those time could be spent on gaining work experience or building a business yourself. We also have financial burdens. since not all PhD program offers a stable salary or a scholarship or a stipend. And also these stipend is a lot less than what the industry will pay you for what you're doing. In some field, PhD holds no value or like no incremental value in the industry itself, for example. So like not every role does require a PhD. In a sense, you might be overqualified for a role that you're currently doing. So since the market itself is tough for some fields, they can't get the academic roles since there is always a finite number that's needed for each universities. And when that's full, you need to go for a job that doesn't require a PhD. So you kind of wasted the cost of the previous years of your life since the PhD doesn't aid or contribute to the future. Also, in some field, it does limit the industrial benefit. So like even with a PhD, it doesn't aid your salary if you're working for someone. And fields like business, computer engineering, or entrepreneur, work experience and networking often matters more than academic credential. So in a sense, if you want to become a researcher or a research scientist, then, or an academic, only then you should pursue a PhD. If you want to benefit your overall life, or if you want to benefit in a financial sense or your industrial sense. So does a PhD make sense? So if your dream job requires it, for example, if you want to become a professor, researcher, scientist, then yes, like of course do it because that's the bare minimum requirement. Or if you're deeply passionate about a specific field and love independent research, because why not? Most programs does offer some sort of a stipend for your own research. So it is independent research that you could do while getting some sort of income. And I would highly recommend you secure a fully funded stipend for your entire PhD program or the entire period of the PhD program, since you don't want to be at financial risk, and that's also another burden that you have to consider on top of this massive commitment that you're going to be doing for the next 3 to 9 years, depending on how long it takes. And the main thing is, are you willing to accept the time, the commitment, and the career uncertainty that will offer? Since not every PhD program will benefit in the end, and it might be redundant. Now, when might it be not worth it? If you're only doing it because you don't know what else to do, then you haven't done the research in a sense, right? So I feel like it's better to research what the minimum requirement is for your dream job or what you're trying to achieve in the future. If your field values more experience and skill over a degree, then it might not be worth it. If you're seeking a higher salary quickly, since you lack the experience, if you dislike writing, independent work, and long-term projects. So I hope these questions help you decide of whether you want to pursue a PhD or not, since it all does depend on your specific dream of the future or where you want to see yourself in 5 or 10 years down the line and what you need to reach that certain question. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed this. So I'll be doing more videos related to PhDs and like with funding, applications and all of that. So make sure you subscribe, click the bell notification to get notice, and I will see you next time. Bye.